Well, hello, Woodland United Fellowship. Pastor Dooba here. I'm looking right now at Ephesians chapter 3, verses 14 through 19, and just want to read this through, share a couple thoughts. This jumped out at me, and it relates to our passage from this last Sunday sermon. I'll put that here in the notes below if you missed it. Is from Philippians. The end of Philippians chapter 2 is what we were covering, verses 19 through 30. And the sermon was entitled When Ordinary and Extraordinary Collide. And in this passage, really we see where the extraordinary lifestyle can really come to life in our own environments, in our own families, in our own workplaces. And that's not at trying really, really hard, and I mentioned this in the message as well, to be awesome, but rather to be faithful. Not just to be faithful with other people, as the passage we looked at on Sunday speaks about, but one piece of faithfulness in which extraordinary lifestyle can come to life in your own environment is in our prayer life. We are in a time of upheaval around the world, and in this time, we cannot let go of holding tightly to our own personal relationships with Jesus. It's a walk with God that we each have individually. And Paul here in Ephesians chapter 3, starting in verse 14, speaks about, he's speaking to the Ephesian church. He says, I'm going through a lot, but I care so much about the gospel. Paul is a missionary who cares vibrantly, passionately for the gospel and the gospel to be spread. And he says to the Ephesian church that I am going through suffering, you know that, but don't lose heart. And then he says, I'm going to pray for you, specifically for spiritual strength. We all need, even today, spiritual strength. And he says in verse 14 of chapter 3, he says, for this reason, because I'm in suffering and you need strength to be encouraged, to be bold, he says, for this reason, I bow my knees before the Father. He doesn't say that I studied a lot more. He doesn't say that I ran about and stayed really, really busy. He says, I know that I need strength and you need strength, and so I'm bowing on my knees before the Father. Why does he say he's doing that? Because it's through the Father that all strength, all love is understood, that our faith can grow is from our time with God. Don't neglect in this time your own personal relationship with Jesus. Not just reading scripture, yes, that's important. Not just calling other people on the phone, yes, that is important, but your own personal time with Jesus. Let me read this passage to see why Paul says this is so important. He says, this is the Father from whom every family in heaven and on earth is named, that according to the riches of his glory, he might grant you to be strengthened with power through his Spirit in your inner being, inside of us, so that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith, that you, being rooted and grounded in love, may have strength which we need to comprehend with all the saints what is the breadth and the length and the height and the depth, and to know the love of Christ that surpasses knowledge, that you may be filled with the fullness of God. Yes, we know that God cannot be contained inside of us. God cannot be put in a box. But in our own time, on our knees with him, we can begin to understand, to comprehend the love of Christ, and our faith can grow through that. The strength of our souls, our spirits can grow through that. We need spiritual strength in this time. May I encourage you, don't neglect your own time with God. Maybe right after this short video, you can spend 5 minutes just on your knees, as Paul says here he did, and bowing on his knees before the Father, seeking him for strength, seeking him for guidance and for wisdom, which we need in this time. Spend some time in the Word, yes, but also just spend time, you and God, and let God pour into you. Maybe just keep your mouth closed for a while and let God pour into you. I just want to encourage you with those words. I hope that you will spend time with the Lord today as you're watching this. Spend time in the Word as well. I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Love you.